So how on earth does a brand go from absolutely nowhere to being the market leader in just 4 years, and in one of the toughest markets in the world? Well, that is the incredible story of Boat. They're the Indian audio brand that didn't just show up to play, they completely changed the game. Let's dig in and break down exactly how they managed to pull it off.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We're essentially going to walk through Boat's own playbook. First, we'll look at the massive gap in the market they were so clever to spot. Then we'll dive into the minds of the founders to really get their vision. After that, we're going to dissect their brilliant 4-part strategy. And finally, we'll watch their just explosive rise from a tiny startup to an absolute superstar.
You know, every great startup story kicks off by solving a real problem that people have. And to really understand the genius of Boat, we have to rewind the clock, back to what the world looked like before they ever existed.
I want you to just think back a few years. Let's say you needed a new pair of earphones. What did you do? What were your choices? For most people, it was a totally frustrating experience, right? It was a classic case of a broken market, just begging for someone to come in and shake things up.
I mean, the Indian audio market back then was a total mess. On one side, you had this flood of cheap, super unreliable imports that you just knew were going to break in a couple of weeks. And on the other side, you had a few super expensive international brands that were way out of budget for most people. But you know, the real gap wasn't just about price or quality, it was about identity. There wasn't a single Indian brand that people felt connected to, that they were actually proud to own. This was the perfect storm, the exact opening a new challenger was waiting for.
And right into that chaos, that massive gap in the market, stepped 2 founders. And they didn't see a problem. Oh no, they saw a billion-dollar opportunity.
So, let's meet the guys behind the magic, Aman Gupta and Sameer Mehta. Now, the crucial thing here is that they weren't just tech hardware guys. These were entrepreneurs who really had their finger on the pulse of young India. They saw a whole generation that was sick and tired of boring generic products and was just hungry for a brand that finally spoke their language.
Okay, this quote right here. This is everything. This single idea is the key to their entire empire. They had this incredible aha moment. They realized the market wasn't missing better electronics, it was missing a story. It was missing an identity that young people could actually get excited about and aspire to.
So you've got this amazing, aspirational idea, but how do you turn that into a real plan that can crush the competition? Well, let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the Boat blueprint. Their entire company was built on these 4 pillars, and the order is super important. Notice this, it doesn't start with technology, it starts with brand. Step 1, create an identity. Step 2, aim that identity laser-focused on the youth. Step 3, back it up with a quality product that doesn't empty your wallet. And finally, step 4, use the power of the internet to shout that message from the rooftops. It's just a masterclass in how to build a modern brand. This chart just makes it so clear. Look at the difference. The old market was selling boring, functional electronics. Boat, they were selling fashion. While everyone else was trying to sell to the masses, Boat focused only on the youth. And while the old brands were stuck in physical stores, Boat was born on social media, using influencers to meet their audience exactly where they were hanging out. They didn't just improve the old model, they flipped it completely upside down.
And their marketing? Wow, it was relentless and just brilliant. They partnered with the biggest icons their audience looked up to. Cricketers, Bollywood stars, you name it. But here's the real genius move. They built the Bowheads community. This turned customers into true fans. It made people feel like they were part of this cool, exclusive club. It was never just about buying a gadget. It was about buying into a whole movement.
So, that's the blueprint. It sounds pretty amazing on paper, right? But the real question is, does a plan like this actually work in the real world? Well, the results were, frankly, even more spectacular than anyone could have possibly imagined. Their growth wasn't just fast. It was like a rocket ship. I mean, look at this timeline. They launched in 2016. By 2020, that's just 4 years later, they weren't just another company. They were the #1 wearable brand in the entire country. They didn't just grow, they completely conquered the market, expanding from audio into new areas like smartwatches.
And that's where they stand today. #1. Just let that sink in for a second. In one of the most crowded, most competitive markets on the entire planet, a startup that was only 4 years old managed to climb all the way to the very top. It is a truly mind-blowing achievement.
And listen, this wasn't some lucky break in one category. This chart shows just how dominant their model is. They own a massive 40% of the earphone market.
But what's really amazing is that their blueprint for branding and community worked so well that they could just copy and paste that success into headphones, smartwatches, and speakers. Their strategy wasn't just good, it was a repeatable formula for winning again and again. You know, the boat story is basically the new playbook for Indian startups. Find a gap in the market, build a passionate community, and then scale up with unbelievable speed. And it's stories just like this one that platforms like UpForge are all about, breaking them down and explaining them so that a whole new generation of entrepreneurs can learn from these amazing journeys.
So if you boil this entire incredible journey down to just one single crucial idea, it's this. Boat's true product was never electronics. They understood, better than anyone, the immense power of being a lifestyle brand. They weren't selling a device to listen to music with. They were selling an identity, an attitude. People weren't just customers. They were proud to be both heads.
And that really leaves us with a huge question for any business out there today. The journey of Boat seems to prove that in a crowded world, maybe the most important tech isn't what's inside the product. Maybe, just maybe, success is less about what you sell and all about the story you tell. It's definitely something every single brand should be thinking about.